Hello, people of the internet. So, I'm a lucky duck, and everyone who goes to RISD is currently at school doing winter session right now, and I don't have to do that because I study abroad and I don't have to leave for my second semester yet because it's on a different system than my school, because my school insists on holding classes for a month during January, and everyone else is doing that, and I am not this year. Winter session, most people feel one way or the other about it. I kind of am like fine with it either way. I had a really good freshman year one, and then winter semester last year for sophomore year, I just took like a history class and it was fine. But you're kind of just like, it's like a weird liminal time at RISD because RISD is so hustle culture, go, go, go 24/7 that you work like 8 hours a day freshman year, and the only socialization you do is hanging out with your friends who are also overworked to death, and you just work on homework together, and then you complain about how much homework you have to do together, and then you go to class together, and then you get home from class, and then you complain about how much you hated class together. And then sophomore year, it's a bit better. At least it was for me in illustration, and I had pretty easy professors in freshman year and sophomore year, so my experience was on the lighter side. I think some people really got a short end of the stick, but sophomore year, my experience was stellar. But, the grind can get kind of tiring, even though it was sort of lessons per year. And it gets more manageable. Like freshman year, they just really, really try to just grind you to the bones because they want to see if you're serious and they want to see if you are willing to commit. And do I agree with this philosophy? It certainly pushed me to work bigger, work faster, and makes you more ruthless with your time management. And for me, it was really transformative to my art making process. But at the same time, when I was going through it, it was absolutely miserable. So, Also, the fun thing about going to school out of state is when you come home, your skin and hair look absolutely insane, and you haven't had acne like this since high school because the water is much different. So, fun fact for you. But, I know women, I don't have to cover my acne. We can be real here. I'm wearing my PJs right now. You want me to be really vulnerable? I'm wearing flannel on top and on the bottom. I almost showed you my foot. I don't want to do that. Okay, let's go get painting. All right, let's get to research. I went down to my basement and I found a bunch of little hunks of wood. I use the wood as like a jumping off point to think about how I want to portray trees because I've been really inspired by all these winter trees recently. So I did some research on some topics that I might explore in future paintings. I just read a lot about different types of trees and how the ecosystems in Colorado are affected by things like bugs and plants. Okay, so I did like a map thing, and then I finally ended up with my 4 paintings that I think I'm going to do as part of the series. So the big one's going to be the winter, and it's going to be the death of the tree, and all of them are sort of about like rebirth. So like they're all about like how one stage of a cycle in some sort of nature cycle allows for another one to begin or the other one to finish as well, and how sort of everything is in an ecosystem. So this one is going to be the tree when it's like dead, and it's gonna have like the moon behind it, and I'm gonna have a spider web being over top of it as like the rebirth there is that, like, trees and our homes for animals. This is editing, Sarah, and I'm just coming in to say I did abandon the spiderweb thing, and I decided to make it about like how, even though trees may look dead on the surface, they've got like this whole interconnected thing of roots underneath it. So I made the painting more about roots than the spiderweb idea because I thought if I added it, it would just be too busy. But I thought I should clarify that now in case all you arachnid lovers are getting excited out there. I abandoned that, but maybe I'll explore it in another piece. We'll see. I don't know how this piece is going to evolve. Usually, when I'm working on things, they like go and they evolve, but I'm sort of drawing on a bunch of painting as ideas I've had for a while now, and I'm sort of combining them in new ways. And this is usually how I go, where I'm just chewing on an idea for a long time, and then I wait for the right time to come along where I'm like, oh, I know how to make this piece right now. Okay, I'm gonna start out with a nice base color. Actually, let's just go for it. Let's do this one. I'm going to keep some of this wood on the outside, so I'm just going to be very careful to not paint the whole thing. But I did put on a lot of paint. Yeah, I'll have it like fade into the rings. I'm going to try to work within the wood texture and like accentuate it because it's part of my canvas rather than against it. I think that that's the best way to make happy accidents, as Bob Ross says. Okay, I like that better. I like that it's like marrying the edges. While I work, I'm just going to chat to you about some things that I wish I knew before I went to art school because I know like college decision time is coming up. My younger sister is a senior in high school, so she's deciding right now. And there was a lot of things that were quite different about my experience at RISD versus what I thought it would be like going into RISD. So I thought I would just talk a bit about like what my experience has been like so far. And I'm speaking only for my experience. I'm not speaking for anyone else's experience and all that yada yada. So if you don't know me, hi, my name is Sarah. I am currently a junior at Rhode Island School of Design, although not for this upcoming semester. I don't know when you'll be watching this because I am pre-recording a ton of my videos because I am moving internationally. So I don't really know what my setup will be like, and I don't know how much free time I'll have to work. So I'm just pre-recording a ton of videos while I'm having fun painting by myself over winter break while everyone else is in school already, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video. But I went into RISD thinking that art school would be fairly easy. I have a background coming from an art high school. I've drawn my whole life, and I had like a schedule going on in high school where like I would churn out a new painting every single week and I would work on it very diligently, and I worked AP art twice. So going into art school, I'm like, this will be a cakewalk. However, RISD is known for their foundation program, or EFS as everyone at RISD calls it, and EFS is very hard. And when I say it's hard, I mean it's actually really hard. I don't think anyone disagrees with the fact that it is genuinely hard. And you might be thinking to yourself, if you go to like, I don't know, engineering school, like a lot of my family does, you might be thinking to yourself, how the hell is art school hard? So I had to work usually from like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and we had like an hour break. And if you were lucky, you had like a longer break in the middle of the day or whatever, but usually like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and or like 9 p.m. nor 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. if you didn't have another class that day, but usually you had two classes, and you would get up nice and early and you would go to studio and you would have your painting instructor present you with a stack of cardboard boxes. You might be thinking to yourself, what the hell is this? And to that I say, right, what the hell is this? This is your new still life that you're going to be painting every single, or drawing, I should say. Sorry, only drawing in charcoal. Only charcoal for the next like week and a half, and you can't talk, and you have to stand, and you have to have no headphones, depending on your teacher. My teacher was nice and let us sit and have headphones, but I have friends who have like stand and aren't allowed to use headphones. And that's all you do is you draw cardboard boxes. So it's pretty grueling, and you're sort of just thrown to the wolves at RISD. They really just let you learn on your feet. Well, the biggest learning curve for me in this realm was definitely the class spatial dynamics, which was like our 3D foundations course. I had some really great teachers who pushed us to really make really interesting projects. Like one of my projects was making a chair, another one was making a musical instrument. However, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I wasn't given instruction. I was just so sort of told to just do or die, and I died, but I also did. It wasn't like the best stuff I've ever made by a long shot. And in EFS, the real worst part of it, in my opinion, was these 8-hour crit days where you would just spend the entire day just talking about everyone else's art, and like you're running on no sleep because you didn't finish the project in time for the night before, so you tried to crank a bunch in last minute. And I didn't really have any free time to go out and have a lot of fun, so I felt kind of bored and like claustrophobic and like crazy. But you're all kind of going through it together, and it is fun, and you're romanticizing the whole time to get through it because you're like, oh my god, I'm finally at RISD, oh my god. And you're surrounded by a lot of really interesting, talented people, and you're being exposed to new ideas, and it's just a lot. But you take it all in, you survive, and then sophomore year is hopefully a lot better, and you can get in your major and sort of get in a groove. I chose illustration, and I had a wonderful sophomore year. My foundations courses were exactly what I would want out of a like art program, because illustration is very much about like the craft of drawing and how to be a good draftsman. So you take courses in painting, you and observation, you take courses in drawing and perspective and figure drawing, and you also take conceptual classes learning like how to make art for clients. And I really liked this approach. It really covered all the bases and all of the different types of illustration I was interested in, and really helped me like weed down what kind of career I wanted to pursue, because I came into RISD wanting to be a corporate artist, and I just wanted, to like get a design job at like a marketing firm or something, or like an editorial job at a newspaper, and work week to week on everyone else's projects, and just always be told what to do, and just make it have my little creative process compared to how I work now. Whereas now, after going through the RISD ringer and just sort of making a lot of projects and trying out a bunch of different hats, I am currently going to try to pursue fine art, which is something I didn't really see feasible or possible before going to art school. And I just sort of assumed that you can only really make money selling personal work if you have 100,000 Instagram followers, or you are really well connected, or you have rich parents, or all of the above. And I don't really have any of those at the time. But I have since come to realize that it's a lot easier to do, and you can do it with a lot less followers than I originally thought were necessary to make like good money off your art. Considering that I am starting my quote unquote job as a social media artist and freelancer through school, while I don't have to support myself financially just quite yet, I'm still sort of building up to when I graduate. I am just really hoping that the year and a half I have, and maybe even a little longer after I graduate, I don't know, we'll see what my situation ends up being before I have to like truly leave the nest completely and be completely financially independent. um, I'm realizing that I can do it with my current situation right now, and I don't have to wait for this some sort of future time when I'm a quote unquote real artist and I know what I'm doing in order to pursue it. So that's sort of like the most valuable thing I got out of, especially my sophomore year, was just learning the ropes of who and what kind of artist I want to be. And also by modeling and learning from and using the advice of fellow freelance artists who do teach at my school and do have really great insight on how the industry works and how to break into that market and what directions to pursue and what my strengths are. So I think that the mentorship I got, especially in my major, has been worth the extremely concerning ticket price that RISD does have. And I typically don't recommend people who are just semi passionate about art to go to art school, or just aren't in it for 100% and for the ups and downs and for the lack of security, because it is such a volatile and fickle field. Forging my own path has been really rewarding, and I think that the mentorship I was able to get at art school has really benefited me in that. We'll see if my student loans cancel out any good money I make from the mentorship that I receive, but that is yet to be determined. You know, I still have all these opinions as a junior. My junior year was a lot more career focused, but unfortunately, I didn't get good classes, so I wasn't able to focus on the career that I want to pursue currently, which really frustrated me and kind of just led to a meh feeling about my junior year. But I also didn't care that much because I'm leaving for Florence, where I'm not going to be at RISD, so I'm going to have a whole different experience of what art school is like. Not only not at my home institution of RISD, but not in my home country, and not in my home major. I'm going to be switching to being a painting major, which will be interesting and fun and exciting. Freshman year, I was really pushed to be a painting major. A lot of people are surprised that I'm not a painting major. I chose illustration over painting. I actually chose RISD because of the illustration program, but I chose illustration over painting just because I really wanted to hone my technical skills, and I really wanted to be pushed in ways that I am bad at pushing myself. For example, the perspective class was the most foundational thing to me improving my drawing and improving my technical skill, and I really like the philosophy, and I like the department and the vibe and all the people in illustration. Illustration is the best major. Sorry.
Right now, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell to do with this grass because I want it to look like sort of spotlit, like almost like there's a car with headlights on it. But at the same time, it's looking kind of weird. So I think I maybe may have made it too tall. Let's see if I can knock it back. It'll look better. That always seems to be the solution, is just get rid of it. I think it's just too much all over. The thing I like about my pieces is that they're just super layered. So every time I get something wrong, it's just an opportunity to go back over top of it and make the correct mark that was always supposed to be there. And then the correct mark will look even more correct because it is like correcting something rather than like being the first mark laid on there. It all sort of just depends on what kind of look you're going for. Like some painters want that sort of effortless, like one mark look where it just looks like you happen to make the perfect mark. And I personally don't do that when I paint, so I just leaned into the fact that I am not a perfect painter, and I think it makes my paintings more fun and interesting and layered. But even like so-called perfect painters usually aren't so perfect. Like my favorite is Sargent. And if you look at a Sargent painting, it looks super effortless and beautiful. Like, Sargent paintings to me just look like they breathe in a way that I don't think other painters can really replicate the same way he does. They just look so effortless, but in actuality, like, all those quote-unquote effortless brushstrokes are like built up of like 10 different strokes that Sargent would make until he would lay the final one on top. And because he had like the wet ones, I'm pretty sure he worked alla prima, because he had like a history to the canvas, the fresh one laid on top just looked like it had always had been meant to be there. And I don't know, I don't know if we paint very similarly. I don't think Sargent and I have much similar style in common, but I think we kind of follow the same philosophy is where it's just like, because my paintings are so textured and I'm blending so many different elements together, I try to make it look like it was always meant to look the way it does, because I think to me, I'm striving for my own sort of realism. I used to be a pretty straight up striving for realism painter, and I don't know, for me these days it's kind of hard to gauge how realistic my paintings are, because I try to make them look as not realistic as I can get them, while also from a distance looking realistic. So I feel like if you're looking at it, like, I don't know, back here, it's like, that looks pretty whatever, but, you go up close and it's like, very obviously, to me, this looks cartoonish. Because it almost is cartoonish. I'm like, trying to, like, caricature the landscape in a way. And I'm also just striving for what I think would make like a good piece. I think that's another thing that I didn't realize was sort of an option when I was a baby artist, which sounds kind of weird, but I just sort of always thought like I had to paint what was true to life, even if I thought it was ugly. And I realized that almost all painters like edit their subject matter in some way or another, and the best painters really edit it, and they just edit it in a way that you can't tell it is edited because it just looks so natural and a part of the piece that you like wouldn't know otherwise. There's like such a delicate balance of like thick to thin to thick that I want to have to just sort of strike this right kind of wintry tree look, because I love the way trees look in winter, where they're like, to me they almost look like veins of lungs or something, and there's a ton of them around and I just find them so inspiring, and I've been wanting to paint one for a long time, and I don't know, I think this would look good with all my other work recently. That's another thing, that finding your art style, in my opinion, was less about finding a style, but making a lot of art that I think looks fun together. And by that, I just end up referencing my old pieces in my head. Like, it's not overt references, but to me, I'm like, oh, I'm drawing like this from this. Like, I'm thinking the same way I'm thinking while I'm making this piece as I was the previous piece. And instead of like, it's conceptual and whatever, but it's also about visually, like, what am I thinking about when I'm making pieces? Like, what areas am I focusing on? What areas am I pushing? Like, I'm just trying to make everything live in the same universe. It's the Sketchbook Sarah multiverse. But I don't know, I think that thinking in those kind of ways help me figure out a style better than sort of like this, I don't know, like textbook definition of like classification that a lot of artists want to have. Like, oh, I'm a impressionist painter, I'm a realist painter, I'm a blah 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 painter. And to me, I'm just like, I find my style is more fun and I explain it better in my own head when I think about it in like very traditional non-conceptual terms. God, I sound so pretentious. I don't know, going to art school kind of poisons your brain because you're surrounded by all these pretentious people, and then you're like, first week one, you're like, these people are crazy, and then like by the time you're a junior, you're talking just like them, you've become them, and you can't tell like how lost in the sauce you are, because art school is like, in my opinion, it's truly a sauce. And I have been going to art school since I was in high school. I went to a public art high school and I absolutely loved it, but like my art teachers like treated the program like it was a college program. So I've essentially been going to like the same structured, like traditional academic style art school with like critique and things and like direction rather than instruction since I was a freshman, and that was really cool, and it's definitely had a big impact on my art. Like, I love my high school art teachers. They're like some of my favorite teachers I've ever had. I don't know, I'm just surrounded by artists for so long. I'm like, sometimes I find it weird and hard to relate to non-artists, which is kind of funny. I feel kind of like, I don't know, I feel kind of weird, but at the same time, my My sister is like a jock, and my sister's like my best friend, so she keeps me grounded. And art school is like, so much of it is being a person as part of your education in ways that like other programs aren't. Like, you know, I have friends who are like, I'm gonna be an accountant, and you know, they don't give a rat's ass about accounting, but they're there for a check. They're not people's like number one dream job, where like art is the thing that people dream about. And because of that, like I have a lot of attachment to my art, and you know, art is self-expression. And you show up to art school, and instead of getting like tests on your bad math grade, you get tests on your bad art. Doing that week to week can, you know, it can be a bit emotionally difficult to handle at first. And, you know, I think everyone can sort of struggle at times, but it's like, feels so weird complaining about it to normal people, because they're like, okay, shut up, artist, like whatever, you go to like painting school, which is so true. And I love to make fun of myself for going to painting school. At the same time, I also struggle to acknowledge like what I do is kind of hard, and it's worth a lot to me and hopefully to other people. And I get kind of insecure about the fact that I am a one-trick pony. So like, I think I'm personally, I mean, you're watching this video, you can be the judge. I think I'm pretty good at painting, and I want to make a career out of it. And I'm currently making a career out of it, and I'm actually doing really well, and I'm really proud of myself. Yet it's the only thing I do. So like, all of my hobbies are artistic, like all my interests are artistic. That's another reason why I struggle to relate to non-artists, is just because like, I don't know, I'm really only interested in art. So if you're not really super big into art, I don't know what I'll talk to you about. We can talk about pop culture things. We can talk about Taylor Swift. I can always talk about Taylor Swift. That's the one thing in art school, being a Swiftie, I feel like alienated in art school. It's so funny. So back to my original point, then I'll get on my Swiftie tangent. I'll save that for after I'm done talking about the important part. But I feel kind of insecure about my intellect, and I don't know, I have to remind myself that I'm also smart and I'm good at other things. But I feel like because I take such immense pride in my art, it's like hard for me to acknowledge I have skills outside of art, and like I'm a valuable person outside of being an artist. Not that I like don't value myself, but it's just like, I don't know, I feel like if I'm really proud and I'm really confident of my art, I'm like only allowed to be that confident and like, I don't know, narcissistic about one thing. And if I had like two qualities about myself, then like that's it, my ego has gone unchecked, and I need to reel it in. But I don't know, I think that part of that is I'm a woman, and I've also had some like past experiences that like weren't so positive around this sort of thing. But a lot of it too is I feel like part of it is being a woman. It always comes back to that, guys. I'm sorry. If you're like a dude who watches my stuff and enjoys my art, which there are plenty of you, and I appreciate you, because I get on my feminist pedestal practically every time I speak. So thank you for bearing with me. And I also think it's interesting how gender neutral my audience seems to be, because for me, my art is like super uber feminine. Like right now I'm painting glitter on the moon because I think it's pretty. And I like city lights because they're sparkly and they're pretty. And this is like my fairy portal world. But I have so many dudes who really like my art. So actually pretty much all of my major collectors who have like probably like commissioned me and given me the most support have been men. So I just think that's very funny, because my art to me is so feminine. But I've also been told by several people that they think I'm a man before they start talking to me, and I'm like, what about my online presence says I'm a man? But I don't know, maybe dudes just draw so many blonde women that like people assume I'm not making self-portraits. I'm not sure. But you go to art school and you're like surrounded by girlies, but you go to art history textbooks and there's none. Because, you know, it's easy for us to say that, like, you know, there's a lot of progress we've made, and, you know, feminism is dead because women can vote. And, you know, I want to acknowledge that women can vote, and that's a great thing. However, I'm just like, guys, we're so far from like equality, like true. And by equality, I do mean equity, not none of this like equal rights, equal fights bullshit. Fuck off. Like, what? Those people make me laugh. Like, shut up. This is my Posca pen bin. I probably have like several $100s worth of art supplies in this single basket because unfortunately I just love paint pens and they break constantly and they're expensive. So I just love to use the world's most expensive supplies. Tip of the trade for acrylic painters: use acrylic neons because they give you the best colors, especially when you're glazing. So what I'll do is I will mix them into other paints, and I'll often do like really thin, because these paints are super transparent. So I'll just do like really thin washes on top of other colors, and like you could see the base color peek through and it just looks beautiful and it glows and it's perfect. But don't use these on their own, ever. Like if you use these on your own, it's a cardinal sin, unless you know what you're doing. Hope you all enjoyed listening to me jabber on about art school. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Right now I'm just adding some pink details and finishing it up. I already did sell the original of this piece. It sold in 5 hours, in fact, so thank you to the lovely collector who bought it. And if you would like prints of this, there are prints on my website. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you later. Bye!